thank you for your presentations, because it really brings a focus and attention on something that some of us, at least, have been focusing on for many, many years. The statistics don't always, they're just numbers, but 5.4 million people displaced and 1.4 million refugees, thousands of people have died in this conflict between the war and the fighting between the RSF and the SAF. And it's also, I'm Egyptian background, so I have family who were living in Khartoum who had to also catch the buses and they paid 10 times, so I'm not sure you got a good deal, but there was a lot of people who were fleeing, but they were lucky because they had Egyptian and Sudanese passports. يعني أهلي كانوا عايشين في خرطوم وكان عندهم الجنسية المصري والسوداني نفس الوقت. So يعني so they had, we were on the phone with them, but as separate to that, in my role in government, you know, I was working with the Foreign Minister and the Assistant Foreign Minister around the repatriations, and there was some efforts made. 2 ADF flights evacuated people to Cyprus, and other efforts were made with other countries and partners to try and remove Australian dual citizens as well. But I think your 3 things, and I want to focus on that because it's really important, and I'm going to be speaking again to the Foreign Minister and the team about this, because there is a bit of a cognitive dissonance. There's so much suffering in the world, there's so many conflicts. We know that there's a lot of media attention on a lot of them, but some of them nothing. And Sudan is one of those that I keep scratching my head with all that's happening, and the media doesn't pay any attention to it at all. So I'm pleased that there's a political imperative here where we're paying some attention and trying to find some effort and contribution to try and support not just the Sudanese-Australian population that are here, which are very important, but also the people in Sudan with the humanitarian assistance. So I know there was about 400 or so, 500 people that were evacuated, but there's so much more that needs to be done. And to your point, sorry, Sally, for Saida. Sorry, Khalil كمان? For Saida. We could be related.
You can pick your friends account.
Sally does too. So on that point, the Foreign Minister and through DFAT and the Foreign Minister's efforts, there has been calls obviously for a permanent ceasefire on the parties, but also a return to negotiation. Exactly what you're talking about, return to negotiations, enabling safe access for humanitarian supplies and workers, and making progress towards a civilian-led democratic government. That's really, really important, and there's ongoing efforts within the multilateral bodies like the United Nations, the United Nations Human Rights Council. There were special sessions which Australia also spoke on and delivered the statements, working with partners like New Zealand and Canada and others, and the UK and so on, to try and push this as well for a dialogue as well to end the conflict. So we're supporting all those efforts. There is some attention being paid on it at that diplomatic level. I think also around the perpetrators' investigations into the war crimes. And by the way, you all know this has been going on not just for the last year. I did my thesis in international law on the Sudanese civil conflict going back 60, 70 years. This has been going on for a long time in many different ways, and there's been many, many crimes committed. But certainly I think the Australian government can play a role in also making those efforts and advocacy for investigations and bringing those perpetrators to justice as well through the HRC and bodies like the ICC and so on. Now on the aid thing, which I think there could be a really good contribution, we added 20 million in aid. I've been arguing, obviously want more aid and support. I'm a bit different. I don't know about Marine and others, whether you see this as well, but with our aid budget and our development budget and our humanitarian assistance budget, I don't think it just has to be in the Indo-Pacific. I think we're a global citizen. It matters whether it's in Sudan or whether it's in the Pacific. That matters to all of us. It matters to our diaspora communities as well. But it matters as a good global or good international citizen that Australia does that. So I think it's really important to continue that work around trying to push for more assistance through the UN, through NGOs. We met with ACFA today, obviously understanding the important work that so many NGOs do in Sudan as well. And I think the other thing, honestly, is like, how can we, apart from this good meeting, how can we lift the kind of awareness of what's happening in Sudan in a more general sense across the political spectrum? We've got good support across parties and across the parliament, but in the public sense as well, because people they could feel some sort of compassion fatigue, or they could feel like there's so many conflicts going on where do we even look first? And this is so far away, why do I have anything to do with that unless I know someone? There has to be a way to explain that better, about us saying the reason we need to provide humanitarian assistance is because of the peace and security of the people of Sudan, but also across the whole region, and how that matters to us here in Australia as well. Australians are very kind-hearted. They have, there's a fair go there. There's a culture there of wanting to give and to contribute. A lot of people give to charities and so on. I think we need to explain to people what's happening in Sudan a bit better. So I'm trying to do that more. And of course, some of the diplomatic effort when I meet with the Egyptian ambassador and the other ambassadors, because the refugees have gone to Egypt, Chad, Ethiopia, and I think South Sudan as well. So there's a lot of need there to support the refugees in that. I will do everything I can to continue internally to work within the government to try and assist in the diplomatic effort, but also in the humanitarian assistance effort. And we were just talking today about the push in the budget to increase the humanitarian fund as well. So these are things that government can do, the Australian government can do. It's not huge, but when you add it up together with partners like Canada or New Zealand or the EU or whatever, we can at least collectively try and bring those parties to end the conflict, which is really, really important, first and foremost objective. And lastly, I'll just say I do know what you've gone through, because some of my family members have gone through it, and I've spoken to them on the phone. We hear about this all the time, and the difficulty that people are suffering, and the suffering, and there's so much of it, it's hard sometimes to focus. So just know that you've got someone who cares as well, and is trying to do the best in government as well to help.